in, Odd Shopper crew, Odd Shopper family. Here we go. 5 bets in 5 minutes for Thursday night football. And I know you look at the video, you think, wait a second, this is 10 minutes long. What the hell is this idiot talking about? The betting segment, when I give you the 5 in 5, will be in 5 minutes. That's the whole idea here. I speed through it in a clock so you get what you want. Let me just tell you about a couple of things. And yes, I'm going to ask you to hit the thumbs up button right away. If you're new to the Odd Shopper community, what are you waiting for? Be part of the fastest growing sports betting community on YouTube by just hitting that subscribe button. And you can hit the notification bell so you don't miss videos like this when they pop, because you don't want to miss anything. Rasa, Laffy, Andy, you don't want to miss anything we're doing. Lindy in the NFL, Greg, what have you. So this is a sneak peek. I always do this to kind of wet your beak just a little bit, because I'm going to tell you right now what's happening at BetMGM. But that's going to be the first play up there. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. You can read it. You can see it. If you're listening, well, then you're just going to have to wait. I'm sorry. But there are a couple of things. I'm going to tell you what's happening at BetMGM. We're going to do 5 and 5. I'm going to show you, before we get out of here, I'm going to show you living, tangible, concrete proof about why our insider access is beating everything and everybody else, and why we just can't do certain things here that I can, the flexibility that I have there. All right, look, $10 is going to win you $200 free with BetMGM. And yes, we're going Chargers here. And I told you I wouldn't tell you, but I can't help it. You're hanging with me. The least I can do is let you know what we're doing first. We're going to go Chargers with the points, but I'll explain why in a second here. There's a link below for you, all right? And a lot of you, I know a lot of you are still new to having multiple books, even though the whole idea, the genesis of Odd Shopper was created for you to shop, shop, shop. I know you out there, you're not taking full advantage of multiple books. So just click this link below. $10 wins $200 free with BetMGM, and you can start with a bankroll right away. $200 is going to get you a lot, depending on what your size of your units are, and that's just what we want, man, is to start you off with a bankroll. All right, you ready? 5 and 5. Let's start the clock. Bang. All right, we're going to start with the Chargers. Anything over 3.5, as I mentioned here, this is the best place to go. I'm not going to do anything. 4 is my baseline. This is a sharp number, and I think that 4 is pretty accurate to where the Chiefs spread should be laying points against the Chargers. Yes, Keenan Allen is out. We'll get to that. The kicker for Kansas City's out. We'll get to that. Road teams are on a 13-4-1 ATS run in this rivalry. Road teams are dominating the spread. And yeah, you can look at the spread at 3 opening up to where it closes. Keenan Allen is out. It doesn't move much for me, honestly. I think Kansas City's kicker being out is going to change a little bit more. Herbert is 3-1 against the spread against Kansas City, and 2-0. That's right, 2-0 on the road. So I'm going to go Chargers, anything over 3.5, knowing, of course.
And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. It is Thursday, September 15th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Scherer, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks. 5-game slate to talk about. So back-to-back days for Adam and I, just breaking down small slates. In theory, it went well for both of us yesterday morning in that we both had top 10s. Went well is all relative, but, you know, still happened. Anyway, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, what are you more excited for today? MLB slate, your first round of PGA, or Thursday night football?
Probably Thursday night football, because I fully expect Jason Day to withdraw during this show and ruin PGA, so that's out of the question. I'm just really frustrated with baseball right now, so that leaves football.
There we go. Football wins. That'll work. As far as games go, this is about as entertaining of an NFL game as we're going to get for Thursday night football. So give me some Chiefs and Chargers, but I'm also happy to get into this 5-game MLB slate. We had this conversation yesterday on the show. I kind of like the smaller slates.
Yeah, I don't.
They seem to be going well for me, at least this year. Normally they didn't, but this year I can't complain. So I'm happy for it. I did not play golf, though. I wish I did.
Yeah, I will probably regret it within the next hour.
We got a super chat from Eric who wants you to never shave again. He's team beard.
Same page there.
You should just never shave again.
Never. Not even trim it.
Just grow it out.
Yeah.
Be wise. Just a wise man. Anyway, you want to just dive into this bad boy? I got nothing else to shoot the shit about at this point.
Somebody said Adam has an interview. Are you leaving? Yeah, I mean, if I had an interview, I would not make myself look 18. I would, try and look my age.
Yeah. Also, if he were leaving, I don't know where you think he's going that he'd care about shaving.
Yeah, I don't even have a resume.
Good on Twitter.
Yeah.
5-run implied total for the Astros, a 3-run implied total for the Oakland A's. Lance McCullers and James Caprillion. McCullers 9,700, the most expensive pitcher on today's slate. He's pulling 50% ownership, so he is the most owned pitcher as well. On the opposite side, the A's, Caprillion 6,300, unowned, obviously in a tough spot against the Astros. Let's talk about McCullers here. What do you think of the ownership? Is he your top pitcher for today?
Yeah, and I think the ownership is reasonable. It's just another slate where McCullers is getting a lot of ownership, but then so are the other guys that are good that you would potentially move to. Carrasco's at 47%, Michaelis is at 42, 51 coming into McCullers. So that's one of those things that kind of always trips me up when people are just I'm not people are playing chalk McCullers. It's yeah, unless you're just playing 5% owned dudes, your options are chalk McCullers or chalk other guys. So who really cares? So I think that, he is the top guy. The matchup's good. Obviously you get some volatility with McCullers just based on who he is as a pitcher, but good matchup. I don't think the ownership on him looks any worse than the ownership on other top options.
I'm with you there. Is there any way you would want to get to Caprillion today?
I think that's really difficult given the matchup. I mean, it is only a 5-game slate, but you're just talking about a really bad pitcher and a really bad matchup. It's I think I would just be more inclined to take my chances on Daniel Lynch or Dylan Bundy or something like that, as opposed to Caprillion against the Astros.
I don't have much. I got to 1 or 2 lineups of Caprillion, so nothing that I could really.
Is this guy's name Dry Jameson?
I mean, Dre.
I feel like Dry works better.
Well, he would probably get rid of the E in his name if he wanted it to be Dry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, you're right.
I know.
I know it says Dre, but I thought I was trying to come up with an example of EY.
It could be Dry. It's not like I have any idea how to properly pronounce it. We'll get to him in a bit. Let's talk Astros bats. 3rd in top stack, 3rd in ownership, both at 14% on the dot. They're not the cheapest stack in the world, but the bottom helps out a little bit. And with pricing for pitching, if McCullers at 9,700 is the most expensive pitcher, then I don't have much of an issue getting to these Astros bats against Caprillion. I'm honestly surprised they're not a little bit higher, but at the same time, I'm getting them, and that's really all that matters. I'm 2x the field on the Astros. Yeah,
I mean, I think they look good here. And like you said, the salaries aren't really too much of an issue because you also have Minaya that you can go to at 7,600. He obviously has his own issues, but he's cheap. You have mid-range pitchers that aren't very good, but that you can use if you really run into a salary crunch as well. It's not like the top-end pitching creates a ton of opportunity costs because none of these guys project all that well. So I'm with you. If the Astros are going to get less ownership than San Diego and just kind of be around Kansas City and Minnesota and St. Louis, I like getting to them because, I mean, Caprillion is not good. 180 expected ISO to righties this year, 18% strikeout percentage, 13.7% strikeout percentage to lefties, 155 expected ISO. I think the Astros look good here.
I can't say anything negative about the Astros. They're my second most exposed team behind the Cardinals, who we'll certainly get to. They are pulling some ownership as well. We'll see what happens when we get crunches and everything. What about the A's? Can we get on the opposite side of McCullers, who's probably over-owned for his skill set? It's a little bit more of a 5-game slate salary type situation. Is there any value here in Oakland?
It seems
because their value.
It seems like the ownership is kind of just where it should be is the issue for me. We have Oakland with about a 4.5% chance of being the top stack, about 4% chance of, or 4% ownership. When you factor in the value, I think that's still the value of their pricing. I think that does still make them look a little bit underowned, but it would be a little bit more interesting to me if just, nobody were getting there because they are obviously bad. But, to your point about McCullers, he hasn't pitched a lot this year because of injury, but so far he really hasn't been impressive. 21.7% strikeout percentage, 12.5% walk percentage, 4.37 xFIP. He's somebody that's always had issues with walks. It's just that normally you're getting an upper 20 strikeout percentage, and that hasn't been there yet. So, I do expect him to get back to form sooner than later, but it's no certainty. There's always that chance with McCullers that he just can't throw strikes and runs up his pitch count and he's done in 4 innings anyway. But this year, I think there's also a higher likelihood that you just get a bad start from McCullers.
Yeah, I would like to get to a little bit more Oakland. It's not happening right now, but I like the idea of it, just given his ownership and given the fact that it's a 5-game slate. I think there's a path there that is a little bit better than it seems, but not by too much. Like our stack score on the A's, I think is pretty representative. It's like 6.5%. So that's showing them as underowned. It looks like a decent spot. But again, we're talking about a team where we're going to have like 5 or 6 better options. It's not going to become like your stand or anything. But if I got to 6 or 7% of Oakland at 4% ownership, like that's about as high as I would like to go here.
Yeah. And in his limited sample this year, he has been much, much, much better against lefties, which going from memory, I think typically he's just good against everybody. But he does have the really good curveball, which plays well against lefties. He doesn't throw it nearly as often to righties. He's only striking out 13.8% of righties with a 178 expected ISO so far this year. Again, I think those numbers get better as time goes on. But if I were looking, for individual plays from Oakland, I think obviously Seth Brown is always fine. But, Sean Murphy, Ramon Laureano, Dermis Garcia, those guys all have some combination of power and speed, depending on which one you're talking about. Shea Langolier is a good hitter as well. All those guys from the right side. That's been where McCullers has had more struggles so far this year. And it is the side where he just doesn't throw his best pitch.
Any cash options on the opposite side for the Astros?
Probably. Pena at 4,600, I would think is a shortstop option. You can always get the Alvarez or Tucker. I'm going to run that right now. But I think they strike me as a team where they're expensive enough that I don't know that I can point to one and be like, oh yeah, this guy's just going to be in every cash lineup. But I think it's likely that you're just getting a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I got to Tucker at 18%. That's the highest of anybody I got on the Astros that isn't McCullers. Yeah,
using the Stokastic projections, Tucker's getting in there the most for sure. Well, other than McCullers, he's in all of them. Tucker's coming in around like 30%. Alvarez is coming in around 20%. Altuve's around 5%. Pena's around like 3%.
Okay.
Pena's losing out to Correa, it looks like. The Twins look like the cash team, basically.
Ooh, I've got it more as like the Cardinals, so that'll be an interesting discussion point. I think
Twins
it's going to be
Padres.
I think it's going to be interesting either way. We've got a couple teams. Astros, Twins, Cardinals, and Padres are all very similar in terms of like implied run total and stuff. So I think we could see a lot of fluctuation of that throughout the day until we get closer to lock.
Yeah. But I think the Padres and the Twins are the two showing up as like the good values out of those 4.
Yeah. I'm barely getting the Pods. Machado at 12%. It's going to be an interesting discussion as we move through this.
Machado 39%.
Getting a lot of your Royals.
Did none of them. Pasquantino in 1.
Yeah.
Massey in 2.
I got Pasquantino in 100%.
Perez in 10. I think I have Miranda at first base. Yeah, Miranda's in 90% of these.
We'll talk through it. Anything else, Astros and A's?
Nope.
All right, big time schedule for the rest of the day. Buckle up, everybody. Coming up after this, 11 a.m. Maybe I'll go at 11:05 since they ran long before us. NFL Strategy Show Matchups Edition. The big breakdown. This one runs long. If you want to listen to a breakdown of everything going on for this Sunday, this is the one you're looking for. MMA Strategy Show coming up at 1 p.m. We've got the No House Advantage Thursday Night Football Show at 2:30. MLB Live Before Lock at 5:30. We got the combo of Adam and EMAC on that one, so make sure you're tuning in for it. 6:30, we've got the NFL Deeper Dive. 7:30, NFL Live Before Lock. It's supposed to be 7:20, but you guys get the joke. There's going to be 2 straight hours of NFL coverage. Just watch it. And then finally, MLB ownership is free for today. Mets and Pirates. 4.6 run implied total for the Mets, 2.9 for the Pirates. Carlos Carrasco and JT Brubaker. Carrasco, 47% owned, 9,400, second most expensive pitcher behind Lance McCullers. JT Brubaker is 7,800, actually 15% owned here against the Mets. Let's start with Carrasco. I have Carrasco and McCullers with the exact same projection here. I don't think there's a huge separation between the two. Little surprised to see McCullers pull slightly more ownership, but 47% and 50 are basically the same. To me, these two guys just look really good today.
Yeah, we have them separated by 0.06 of a point, so basically the same as well.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't think that either one should have. I don't think there should be much of a gap in ownership. I consider 51 and 47 to be about the same. But yeah, good matchup for Carrasco as well. They just look really, really similar. Carrasco last time out, 74 pitches, 54 the one before that. I assume he can get up to like 85, 90.
I got him in for 5 1/3, so no issues there.
Yeah, like I think, and it's kind of when you think about efficiency too. There's a really good chance that 90 pitches from Carrasco equals 105 from McCullers.
It's true. It's a good point. How do you feel about Brubaker on the opposite side? 15% ownership was kind of a little bit more than I was expecting. He is the top of the salary tier after we get these 9K guys. There's $1,200 separating Brubaker from the next closest guy, which is Michaelis. What do you do with Brubaker?
I was surprised at the ownership too. I understand why it's there in the sense that, like you said, it's a 5-game slate. 2 of the pitchers on it are Chase Anderson and Dry Jamison. So, and a third is James Caprillion. So there's very limited options, and that's why Brubaker's going to get some ownership. He's also a good pitcher, or a good enough pitcher. 22.8% strikeout percentage, 3.87 xFIP. But it is a tough matchup against the Mets. It's a good park, but it's a team that's pretty difficult to strike out. They have a lot of good hitters. It kind of just jumps out to me that Brubaker is getting twice the ownership of Bundy. He's getting a little bit more than Lynch. Not that I'm a huge Bundy or Lynch fan, but they all just kind of look similar to me. Brubaker 12.8 DraftKings points. Lynch is at a little over 11. Bundy's at about 11. But Lynch and Bundy are also cheaper. They all just kind of look the same to me, and so I'm a little surprised that he's getting more.
Yeah, I'm a little light on Brubaker. I'm fine with that as well. I got 9%. Seems like the spot that I'm trying to be. Easily going to get to more Carrasco than I am Brubaker. That's for sure. The separation at the top is kind of tough. We'll get to it in a bit. Let's talk bats. Mets are 5th in top stack, 7th in ownership at 8.5%. They are not a cheap stack. They are 10th in value. What do you see here for the Mets? To me, kind of difficult to get to with some of the other teams that are out there, but clearly I'm happy to get Brubaker's good, or at least above average, I think. So it's not like a spot where I really want to target in this park, but I normally would be okay with it. I don't think I'm going to get a lot.
I've kind of been in that situation with the Mets a lot recently where I like their ownership and I want to get to them, but then the prices just make it really difficult to do so. And that's pretty much where it's at here as well. The park isn't good, but Brubaker has had some issues with left-handed power this year in particular. 208 actual ISO, 177 expected ISO. I would like to get to some Nimmo and Lindor and McNeil and Vogelbach and Escobar, but it's also just not a really favorably priced team. So I think there's a pretty good chance they kind of just end up getting left out for me, even though I do think they look decent.
Yeah, we got Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil, all 10% or higher. I don't think that I was getting any Mets in my cash crunch. Yeah, no, not even close, other than Carrasco, obviously. What about the Pirates on the opposite side? 10th in top stack, 7th in value. A lot of 2K bats here outside of Cruz and Reynolds. They are 8th in ownership. So to me, they seem like pretty much properly owned. Another team that I'm not all that interested in getting to, especially with Carrasco on the opposite side.
Yeah, they seem pretty much properly owned to me as well. Carrasco 123 expected ISO to righties this year. Has a lot of 203 expected ISO to lefties. Does set up nicely for Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz, especially if he's near the top of the order. Castro's got some power and he's cheap. Sawinski's cheap. So I'm probably never, ever going to say that I like the Pirates, but they do match up well with the biggest weakness Carrasco's had this year.
I got to Castro and Sawinski. Castro homered yesterday, right? Run that back.
Yep.
But I didn't really get to much else. I expect this game outside of Carrasco to be the game I get the least of. I have 4% total exposure to Mets and Pirates bats. So I kind of need this one to just suck.
Yeah, I mean, pretty decent chance of that.
Let's hope. Anything else here, Mets or Pirates?
Nope.
Twins and Royals. Actually, hit the like button first, folks. 120 viewers, just 27 likes. I know it's a football day, but I think we could hit the thumbs up here. 4.9 run implied total for Minnesota, 3.8 for the Royals. Dylan Bundy and Daniel Lynch, two of like Adams' boys, I guess. Bundy, 8% owned, 7,100. Lynch, 12% owned, 6,700. If you're looking for a value pitcher for today, are you going to Bundy, Lynch, or both?
Probably both. Again, just, lack of options. Same reason I'm going to end up with some Brubaker too. But, I just mentioned it. We talked about Brubaker. I just don't really know why Bundy's half the ownership. I get that he's not very good. He's only striking out 16% of hitters this year, 4.6 xFIP. But it's not like the Royals are a good lineup overall. They have Melendez, Witt, Perez, Pasquantino. Taylor's been better this year. Massey looks okay. Prado's a top 100 prospect. But a lot of these guys still haven't totally put it together yet. And, there's no guarantee it happens today. And at 7 or 8% ownership, it just, to me, seems interesting in getting the Bundy. He doesn't project well, but he doesn't really project that much worse than others. I could see just kind of avoiding that range in general, maybe, and just playing basically Michaelis, Carrasco, and McCullers. But within that mid-range, if you are getting down there, if you are getting up to the Astros or the Mets or something like that, I don't really see why you should be avoiding Bundy on this particular slate. And then with Lynch at 6,700, he's better than Bundy. More difficult matchup as well. 20.5% strikeout percentage, 4.4 xFIP this year. 12% ownership seems reasonable on him.
Yeah, I actually got to a bit of Bundy here. I've got like 19% ownership at that 9%, just because he's the guy coming in with the least amount of ownership in that little group of high 6, low 7K guys. I'm more neutral on Lynch, but I rarely get to him anyway. But I do have 8% for today. I think it's interesting that they both have basically the same top pitcher, top value odds. But I think I'm going to get to a little bit more Bundy. And then we start talking about the bats. We'll go to the Twins first, since I'm sure you and I are definitely getting the Royals. Fourth in top stack for the Twins. Number one in value as well. They're fourth in ownership. I am over the mark on the Twins at this moment. This seems like a great value spot. I'm getting a little bit less of Kansas City than I normally do, mostly because of the ownership. Talk to me about Minnesota. What do you see here?
The way it looks right now, I think I get to a lot of Minnesota. And the reason is, when you look at the top stacks tool, one, they're not even really projected to go over owned. 13% top stack percentage, 13% ownership. But then when you look at the value teams, like San Diego's got a better chance of being the top stack, but they're also pulling quite a bit more ownership than Minnesota. The Royals are pulling more ownership than Minnesota. So normally, for me, at least one of the top value teams ends up being a team I play pretty heavily, even though they are somewhat popular. Here right now, with Minnesota getting less ownership than both of those teams, I think it's likely to be them. I don't think Lynch is a bad pitcher, but I certainly don't think he's good either. 174 expected ISO to righties this year, only a 21.3% strikeout percentage. Lefties have a 164 expected ISO against him as well. Cheap Kyle Garlick, Jose Miranda's still cheap. Mentioned him earlier in cash. I think he's on the very short list of first base options. Like him a lot in tournaments as well. Nick Gordon is lefty-lefty, but still really cheap. Gary Sanchez is going to look like a good catcher option. Urshela is going to look like a good third base option. The only payoff guy on the team is Correa, who is probably the cash shortstop, if it's not Pena. So I think Minnesota just looks really, really good here, especially at their current ownership.
Yeah, I'm with you. 19% for me, 20% of my 4 and 5 man stacks. This is the spot that I'm going to be getting to pretty heavily. One of the 3 teams, including the Astros and the Cardinals, who we'll talk about shortly. What about your Royals? 6th in top stack. They are 4th in value, but 2nd in ownership. especially at the top, Melendez, Witt, Perez, the guys you want the most are still also pulling the ownership. What do you do here? I'm getting there, but not a lot.
Yeah, that's where I would expect to be if ownership holds how it is right now. I think everybody knows I like getting to these Kansas City guys because it's easy to fit them in the lineups. And between the combination of MPE on Melendez and Witt, and then cheap salaries on everybody who isn't those two or Salvador Perez. But one of the big arguments for getting to them typically is that people aren't going to play Kansas City because they always have like a 3.5 implied run total and haven't been very good overall offensively. If people are going to get there, then they still look fine. Like they're still good values. Vinny Pasquantino still looks fantastic at 2,200. Melendez, Witt, Perez are all good, but a lot of the appeal's taken away if everybody else is there too. You know, if I can play, just even talking about this game, if I can play the team with the 4.8 implied run total at basically the same ownership and prices as the team with the 3.8 implied run total, that's probably the route I'm going to go pretty often.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page for this one. Cash options here. So as I mentioned, I got to a bunch of Pasquantino and Melendez in my crunch. You're not really seeing that?
No, but I get it. I don't think it's like a mistake. It's just that Miranda is taking up all of the first base, almost all of the first base exposure, and Gary Sanchez is taking up like all of the catcher exposure. Perez came in at 10% of catcher. Melendez only came in 1.
So I have Pasquantino 1/10 of a point ahead of Miranda. So that's obviously why that's happening, because $1,100 in difference in salary. Even if they're close, it should probably be Pasquantino. Gary Sanchez, it's hard to really have that conversation. We're comparing Salvador Perez or Melendez to, really expensive potential catchers with Gary Sanchez at 3,100.
Yeah. And
$3,100 Gary Sanchez makes way more sense.
For what it's worth, we have Miranda by 1.8 points.
1.8?
Yeah.
Oof. That's a big time number.
Yeah, which I think we're probably low on Pasquantino, and I think you're probably low on Miranda.
I'm guessing we have Pasquantino hitting lower in the order to create that sort of gap. I mean, he has to be hit. We have to be projecting him not 4th.
I don't know where else we would project him. That's where he hits.
If they flip him with Nick Prado or something like that, and then he moves down to 7. I have no idea. That's the only thing that I can think of.
Yeah, like
interesting.
That's definitely a low Pasquantino projection, but I also think Miranda should be projected higher, given that his team's implied run total is a run higher. He is also good.
Sure.
Like he's a top 100 hitting prospect also.
I mean, I've got Pasquantino basically the same amount of plate appearances, a better hitter just in terms of steamer. I'm surprised to see that big of a gap, honestly.
Yeah. I'm surprised that we have that big of a gap. I think they should just be pretty close. I agree with you. I think Pasquantino is the better value given that he's cheaper, but I also just don't know how much it ends up mattering.
Fair. That's totally fair. Like, what do I end up? Like, I get a 1-off-1 Soto in my most expensive lineup, or in my highest optimal lineup. That's, I'm saving basically that money to get to more Juan Soto in that case. Anything else here? Twins and Royals?
Nope.
All righty. Then let's talk a little bit about Prize Picks, presenting sponsor of this show. Click the link in the description of this video. You will be able to get up to $100 on your first deposit at Prize Picks. And they've got everything right now. Lacrosse, disc golf is up here. Adam's favorite, trucks, MMA, soccer, college football. And you don't have to worry about an optimizer. You're picking player props. You're taking over-unders. I'm going to hit Adam with a couple over-unders right now. We'll see where we end up. Just out of curiosity. Is it there? It's not there. I was looking to see if Miranda and Pasquantino were hopefully there just to see. Yeah. But Miranda has 1.5 total bases as his prop. No sign of a fantasy projection for either him or Pasquantino. So we'll go to pitcher fantasy scores. And I'll hit you with the first one. He was the first guy we talked about. Lance McCullers, 39.5.
Major under.
Yeah, I got 34.5.
We have 31.
Snap under for me there. Let's then go to Carrasco, 36.5.
Also under, just not by as much.
3 fantasy points below him. Interesting. That's something to think about, I guess. I have Carrasco at 33.5. So again, not as interested. And then we'll go to your boy, Daniel Lynch, 18.5.
Over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over one as well. Red Skittles wants us to do a trucks one. All right, Adam, Let's go to trucks. Over under 38.5 NASCAR points for John Hunter Nemechek.
What, I mean, do we know anything about the scoring here?
It's definitely in points.
Okay.
I don't know, man. You think I know whether this is Prize Picks doesn't let me know that it's DraftKings or FanDuel. I had to dig into that.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Oh, yeah. All right. Trucks. Nemechek. What was the line?
38.5.
We have 57.8. So
probably the other site then.
I don't see another site.
I don't even know if it's fantasy points. I think this might be like points you get for how you finish. They're called NASCAR
so placement
points.
We have 37.4.
Okay. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
What I want everybody to know here is that you shouldn't listen to a damn thing we say about trucks unless it's coming straight from the Stokastic.com website. Good try there, Adam. I appreciate you giving it a shot.
Yeah.
Let's get
Zane Smith 37.5. Corey Hunt.
we're doing this. Zane Smith 37.
I just wanted to see if placement points. I mean, maybe it's placement points. We have 33.3 on Smith, 41.9 on Corey Heim.
Joseph Ramirez says NASCAR points is finish position. Fantasy score is DK projections. So there you go. So yes, that is finish position.
So what's placement points?
NASCAR points. It's the Prize Picks thing.
Okay.
So 38.5 for John Hunter Nemechek, or are you going over
37.4?
Okay. Appreciate you on that one. Cardinals and Reds. 5.1 run implied total for the Cardinals, 3.1 for the Reds. Miles Michaelis and Chase Anderson. Anderson 5,300. No one going there. Michaelis 9K, 42% owned. I don't think it's crazy. It's a good strikeout matchup. The Reds aren't very good with the way that Michaelis limits like disasters. This could be a spot where he runs pretty deep in this game, makes up for his lack of strikeout stuff with volume.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, it's not like Carrasco or McCullers have great strikeout stuff either. They're better than, at least McCullers at this point, they're better than Michaelis, who's only at 18.7%, but Carrasco 23.3, McCullers so far this year 21.7. So the matchup, like you said, is favorable for him being able to work into this game as well. We do have him a little less than 2 points, 2 DraftKings points behind McCullers and Carrasco, but he is also a little bit less expensive. I think he's like the clear third option. I think his ownership may be a little bit too close to those guys, but probably not by that much.
I think it's just sort of the thing where his ownership's coming up a bit because we don't really need like salary is not really a big thing for today. It's kind of easy to just pay up and get, because there's a clear line after Michaelis of guys that are multiple points back.
Right. There's going to be a lot of lineups where it's just like, oh, well, I can just make Brubaker turn into Michaelis.
Exactly. So I get the ownership, not the type of guy that I think I'm going to be huge on, but I am still getting there in the 35, 40% range. So right around the field. I can't justify Chase Anderson at all.
Neither can I.
Okay. And let's talk Cardinals bats. 2nd in top stack, 8th in value, 5th in ownership. This is the team that I'm getting to the most. I'm having a lot of trouble not getting to them, at least based on the lineup that I have right now. You get Chase Anderson on the opposite side, 5.64 projected FIP via Steamer. It doesn't get much worse than that, and that's why I'm getting the Cardinals everywhere. This is my number one stack for today.
Yeah, and also Anderson's been reverse splits for a lot of his career. Not much of a sample size this year, but sets up nicely for the best hitters in the Cardinals lineup: Goldschmidt, Arenado, O'Neill. I don't know why Tommy Edman is expensive still, but he'll probably be towards the top of the order. You'll get a cheap Corey Dickerson in there most likely. If Pujols is in there, you can go right back to playing him in lineups that you can't afford Goldschmidt. So I'm with you as far as them looking like a very good stack. We have them 2nd in top stack score or top stack percentage. But also getting less ownership than San Diego, who's number 1. So I do think they're going a little bit under-owned here, and I don't think it's going to be that difficult to find money for their lineup.
And this is the team that I'm getting to predominantly in cash. Dickerson in 86%, Donovan, Edman, Arenado, all 40% or higher. I'm seeing a lot of the Cardinals, but this could change throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Donovan leads the way with our projections at 34%. Dickerson's at 14%.
Oh, okay.
And then there's just guys kind of sprinkled in.
What do we got Donovan projected as? Just in case, just curious.
7.7.
I'm at 7.2. Interesting.
Second, so what is he, second base? So we have Cronenworth at second base, and then Ursula and Machado at third base ahead of him.
Where do I have Cronenworth? I got Cronenworth at 6.9, which is nice. A lot of similarities for today's slate. I'm really curious to see what I get when I'm running crunches at like 5 o'clock later today. Let's talk Reds. Bats 8th in top stack, 10th in ownership. They are 5th in value. Can you justify here trying to get on the opposite side of Michaelis ownership?
I don't hate it just because he is going to let you put the ball in play, but the Reds are also pretty bad. I like Aquino at 2,100. Like, we know he has power. He's going to most likely be able to hit the ball against Michaelis. He's maybe made some improvements in his approach as well, which I was talking about yesterday. Steer, we know, is a quality hitter. Fraley and Friedel are fine, but their salaries are coming up a little bit. I don't have a lot of interest in Cincinnati. I do think that they're probably going a little bit underowned when you factor in top stack percentage and value. 5% chance of being the top stack, 10% top value, only 3.5% ownership. Out of Cincinnati, Oakland, and Pittsburgh right now, I think I would get to Cincinnati first.
Okay. I didn't get to much, just 2% here of Cincinnati. I'm with you. I do like Aquino at 2,100. Don't really have much else that we could talk about here for Cardinals and Reds.
No, that's all I got.
Weird one. All right. Then we quickly need to talk about a little bit of a promo we've got going on here. I told you guys 2 days ago that you needed to use Scramble because that promo code was going away, and it did. But if you want to find out what we've got behind the paywall for the NFL, you can get a Stokastic Plus Platinum NFL package for 3 days for free, so long as you are a new subscriber to Stokastic.com. This 3-day sample is going to give you everything that we have. Everything, completely everything. Our lineup generator, brand new tool. Our player compare tool, brand new tool. Player projections, ownership, top stacks, boom bust, and more. Only thing you're not going to get here is Fantasy Cruncher. That tool is independent of the site, but you will get a chance to see everything that we've got behind the paywall. All you have to do, click the link in the description of this video. All right, Adam, let's close it out. Diamondbacks and Padres, 4-run implied total for the D-backs, 4.9 for the Pods. Dry Jameson going for Arizona. Sean Manaea going for the Padres. Manaea, 21% owned, 7,600 here. On the opposite side, Jameson, the flat 4K, 1% owned. Let's start with Manaea. I'm a little surprised to see only 21% ownership on him in comparison to, say, 42% for Miles Michaelis. That said, I think it might just be like a salary thing where you don't really need it as much. I like him. I'm over the field. I got 31% on my first run. I think Manaea is in a pretty good spot here.
I don't like the spot.
Interesting. Okay.
I like the price tag. I think the ownership makes sense. Maybe he's going a little bit low. Like I said, I thought Michaelis maybe getting a little bit more than he deserved. Maybe Manaea's getting a little bit less. Like, strikeout stuff is there. 23.5% strikeout percentage this year. That's higher than every pitcher that we've talked about, other than Chase Anderson, and he's barely pitched. 3.95 xFIP is fine. He has allowed a 191 expected ISO to righties, only 112 to lefties, 25% strikeout percentage to righties, 19.3% to lefties. But I don't love picking on this Arizona team. I think they're difficult to strike out. They've gotten better as they've called up some of their top prospects. It's not my favorite team to target, but I do like the price tag of Manaea, and I do like that he's getting, only 21% ownership compared to Michaelis's 42.
I do like the park. The lack of homers will be helpful here. I just, more than anything, I just sort of like the fact that he's only 20% owned on a 5-gamer, and we've got 3 other guys at the top of the heap that are all 40-something plus. More than anything, it's just an ownership and price play, which I think unlocks the Astros a little bit more as well as a bats set.
Yeah.
What about your boy Dry Jameson on the opposite side? Unowned, flat 4K. I don't know how much that value matters, but I'm like, if this were any other team almost any other team other than the Padres, I think there'd be something here. I just don't think it's necessary to attack such a good offense.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm trying to get his FanGraphs page to load right now, and it is choosing not to. But I mean, the Padres obviously not a team that I'm really looking to target ever, unless I have to. They have a 5.1 implied run total here, second highest on the slate to the Cardinals. They have a lot of good hitters. Soto and Machado obviously lead the way, but Cronenworth, Bell, Profar, like these guys are all good. So yeah, like I don't think you're going to need him on this slate. His Fangraphs page is now finally loading. 70 Fangraphs has him 71st overall, fourth on the team coming into this season, striking out 21.2% at AAA this year. In 21 starts, 114 innings pitched. Seems kind of low, but also keep in mind that they play in the PCL. Their home park in Reno absolutely sucks to pitch at. So you kind of can throw that away. We've seen the same thing with Ryan Nelson, where certainly playing better at the major league level than AAA because he's not pitching on the moon in the major leagues. 3.03 xFIP in 4 starts at AA this year, 3.23 last year. Steamer projects, or FGDC projects, an 18.5% strikeout percentage in the majors. That makes no sense to me. I think it's just based on the lack of strikeouts at AAA, which is probably in part due to where he was pitching. So overall, he seems like a good enough pitcher. He shouldn't be 4K.
Yeah.
The Padres probably, I think, should have a little bit lower top stack percentage. But all of that said, it's going to be really difficult for me to actually roster this guy.
I'm assuming we don't have him projected correctly from an innings perspective. We have him 2% chance to be a top 2 value. That seems untrue on a 5-game slate, no matter what sort of the matchup is.
Yeah,
if you think
we
he
have
can
him at
be a
2
starter,
fantasy points. There's no...
yeah, I got him at 9.
Yeah.
I have him going 5 innings. Like, he's a solid look. If he were just in the majors, he would never be 4K. He'd be like 5,300, like Chase Anderson, and it wouldn't look the same. He's a value option. It's just like, how necessary is that value and how much do you want to play against the Padres?
Right. And yeah, I mean, in his recent minor league starts, like right now, we just have him projected like he's some random reliever getting a spot start. And he's not. He's a top starting pitching prospect. Like I said, 114 innings at AAA this year. His most recent starts, 5 innings, 5 2/3, 7 innings, 5, 7, 7, 7, 5 2/3, 5. And in terms of batters faced, even in those recent starts where he went 5, 27 batters, 25 batters, 26 batters. Like this guy is a starting pitcher. He is a talented starting pitcher, not meaning like above average major leaguer at this moment, just somebody that has talent, is fully stretched out. This is not a reliever. This is not some guy that you're looking at and saying like, oh, he's the worst pitcher on the slate. Like none of that is true.
No, not even close to true. When I ran my when I ran my sim earlier, I had him like very likely to be a top value. No surprise. I got to 7% Jameson. So there is a scenario where I'm going to be paying down a bit. I don't have anything other to say other than like most times at this point, if I can get the flat 4K on a pitcher that can start, I might take that shot. Not an advocation for him at all, but it will free up quite a bit of salary. And he's not a fake 4K.
Yeah.
Padres bats. Number 1 in top stack, number 1 in ownership, and somehow also 3rd in top value. What do we do here? Because in theory, they should look exceptional. I wonder if their projections and everything change when we update James.
That's what I was going to say is, like, I don't know our ownership formula, but I do highly suspect it's influenced in part by how we are projecting guys, as it should be. And I feel like the fact that we have just a incorrect currently projection on Jameson is probably driving up the Padres. They're still a good stack. Like you're getting this guy making his major league debut against a really, really good offense. They're still good. They have a 5.1 implied run total, which again, like that's not the end all be all, but it does just sort of highlight that, if there would be a lot of money to be made if people just thought if Jameson was likely to just go out there and shut this team down. Like they're still in a good spot, but I just don't think it's nearly as good a spot as we have it projected to be right now. But that makes sense. If we have Jameson projected for 2 points, then we are projecting them to not be facing him for very long and for the spot to be better.
Yeah, I didn't get to a lot here of the Padres. I'm getting to more Cardinals, more Twins, more Astros. We'll see how that changes throughout the day. I think this is a very difficult slate in terms of making your final decisions. Like there's clear lines to draw in the sand. We know what those top 3 pitchers look like. The A's, the Pirates, the Reds. We know what these teams sort of look like at the bottom. The similarities at the top are really interesting, and figuring out where we're going to go and what we're getting from ownership is really going to be important in a couple hours.
Yeah, and my guess is that you're going to see the top stack percentage on San Diego come down. You're going to see the ownership as a result come down, the top value percentage to come down, because or end up projecting him a little bit lower. And I think a lot of that ends up transferring to St. Louis and Houston. I think you're going to kind of end up seeing flat ownership and top stack percentages across those three teams.
Anxious to see it. I'll be sure to tune into MLB Live before lock later tonight when you're breaking that down. Let's close it out with Diamondbacks bats here on the opposite side of Manaea. 7th in top stack, 6th in ownership. Seems like they're pretty much appropriately owned based on top stack, top value. I have a little bit, nothing too crazy, just 5%. Something in and around the field seems about right here today.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the power upside for a very right-handed heavy lineup going against Manaea. I mentioned 191 expected ISO to righties so far this year. Love that Carson Kelly leads off at catcher. Marte's only 4,100. Walker's cheap and has a ton of power. Rivera's cheap. Garrett's cheap. I think there's a good chance that because of the value, I end up a little bit higher on Arizona than we are right now. I know that happened big time yesterday. I ended up with them with like a 9 or 10% chance of being the top stack, and we were at like 6. I wouldn't be surprised if I get the same sort of thing here. So I think this is a spot where there's a good chance I end up maybe a little bit high on Manaea and a little bit high on Arizona in non-Manaea lineups.
I just saw Rick Rungood responding to a PGA Tour communications tweet, and I was like, oh my God, if this is it and it's happening on the screen, I'm going to be so happy, but it's just a fog suspension.
Yeah, they're in a fog suspension, so I assume he's just going to be like, all right, I don't feel like it, I'm out.
I don't like the fog.
Yeah.
It makes my joints hurt. Well, when I saw it, I was just like, oh God, if this says Jason Day's name, I'm going to have so much satisfaction delivering this news. Because, I mean, the amount of times that Jason Day has banged me on late withdrawals is not insignificant at this point.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought you liked it.
What?
Nothing.
Oh, I see where that's going. That was poor phrasing on my part. It's not even like the banged part. It's the late withdrawal part. Oh, man. Don't you just hate it when you... Well, I mean, it's neither here nor there. Top pitchers
what do you
for
prefer?
today. I mean, I personally, independent of Jason Day, love a good late withdrawal.
From you?
I am providing the late withdrawal.
You're
not to Jason Day.
Okay.
Favorite pitchers.
Lance McCullers, Carlos Carrasco, Michaelis.
It's a shame there's only 130 people watching this shit today. Yeah, McCullers, Carrasco, Michaelis. Look, I like Sean Manaea more than the ownership. He's the guy that I'm getting to more. But I don't hate the flyer on $7,100 Dylan Bundy either. Favorite stacks. This is a tricky one.
Yeah, right now, and again, I think San Diego ends up changing this, but St. Louis, Houston, Minnesota. And I'll throw Arizona in there too.
Well, you read off my top 3 teams there. Cardinals, Astros, Twins. The team that I'm getting to the least right now is the Padres, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm getting to them the most by the time we get to lock, if this all changes the way that we think it's going to change. All righty. That'll do it, folks. Thank you for being here. This is what it's like to be a professional and get out on time for the show in front of you. NFL Strategy Show Matchups Edition is coming out next. Adam, what do you got to say?
Oh, I was just going to say there's a reason that Lofty hasn't been doing shows recently, and it's not his actual excuse of NFL starting.
Exactly.
It's poor timing across the board.
Exactly. He was punished. Do you have GPP videos coming up later today?
Yeah, I don't know what sport or both, but yeah.
There we go. Also, check out my NFL Contenders videos, both on our YouTube channel, breaking down my top 10 plays on FanDuel and DraftKings for tonight for Chiefs and Chargers. Almost said Cardinals. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy it tonight. Hit that thumbs up on the way out the door. We're going to get out of here. Peace. Thank you, Prize Picks.